Queen summoned everyone to a private meeting at her royal country house, and everyone attended except Meghan Markle. I don't blame Meghan for not going, because nothing good happens when white people invite you to the countryside. All right? We've all seen it. We've all seen Get Out. We know how this shit ends.
Give me those keys. Rose, now! Now, the keys!
Oh, be careful, bro.
You know I can't give you the keys, right, babe?
Damn! This is so amazing. So many of you here to see me, huh? I feel like Meghan Markle. This is dope.
Harry and Meghan are leaving the palace to become financially independent. And you see, this is what happens when you bring the first black woman into the royal family. Yeah. She looked at Harry and she's like, "Nigga, you need to get a job. You need a job. You a grown-ass man. You can't still be living in your mama's house, Harry."
It's important we do this ourselves, Harry, and not live off your family.
I agree. We'll just have to find a way to make £50 billion on our own.
Fuck.
What is it that you do exactly, Harry? What is it that you do exactly, Grandma? Ah, touche.
Listen to this. Meghan Markle to join the 11th season of The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. Ugh, so thirsty for any kind of attention. I would die before I would be on her reality show.
Like, what's this girl, Meghan Markle? Just complaining. I was like, didn't she hit the light-skin lottery? Acting all dumb like she don't know nothing. I had no idea how racist they were. It's the royal family. They're the original racists.
My brother's fiancée, Miss Meghan Markle, is on the American program Suits.
Yes, Wednesdays, 8 p.m, USA Network. Check it out. She's amazing in it. Yeah?
Right. The only difference between that show and this is people watch this one.
Oh, hilarious.
What's funny is that no matter what job Prince Harry gets, you realize he's still going to be Prince Harry, right?
Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, is reportedly working on a deal to record a voiceover for Disney. Meghan and Prince Harry met with Disney's CEO at the London premiere of The Lion King in July, where Harry appeared to discuss possible future projects.
At a movie premiere last year, he asked the CEO of Disney to hook his wife up with voiceovers, and Harry can just join the cast of Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. Yeah. This is like fighting on TV. I know what you said about me. Say it through my face.
You have generously offered to keep the wax figures of Harry and Meghan safe while the royal family drama gets worked out.
Yeah, that's correct. And if I may, I would just like to say that I'm definitely not using the wax figures for sex stuff.
Here's the latest twist in Meghan Markle's story, and it doesn't come from the palace or Hollywood. It comes from Trevor Noah. His roast of Meghan is once again trending across social media, with fans replaying, remixing, and dissecting the jokes that flipped her public image on its head. The fresh update? These punchlines haven't just resurfaced. They've overtaken the Sussexes' own PR narrative, turning a polished brand into a running gag. The core of it was simple. Noah mocked Harry as a grown man still living off royal privilege, pushed into real adulthood only when Meghan arrived. It was funny, yes, but also biting, because it rang true. For a couple who built their post-royal career around themes of independence, resilience, and authenticity, this one joke reframed it all as dependency, awkwardness, and contradiction. The audience's stunned laughter told the whole story. People recognized the cracks, and since then, the roast has snowballed. American comics, British satirists, even TikTok creators have piled on, each adding their own layer to the same narrative. Meghan and Harry as Hollywood hustlers, Meghan as the networker, Harry as the man fumbling through jobs. The meme culture has cemented these images in ways no PR campaign can erase. That's the news everyone's talking about right now. The fact that comedy, not crisis managers, is steering the public conversation.
Why? Why would Harry and Meghan want out of a life that so many people dream of having? Honey, think about it. We kiss frogs to try and become royalty. Huh? The only thing I've ever gotten is father herpes. But for Harry and Meghan in particular, the reality of being a royal couple has been far from a fairy tale.
And what Trevor Noah said in those few minutes has left audiences speechless, not because it was cruel, but because it felt undeniable. The first line that shook the room was Trevor Noah's jab about Harry still living in his mom's house. Delivered with a grin, it cut through every polished narrative Meghan and Harry had built. The royal exit had been sold as a bold step toward freedom, but Noah reframed it instantly. Harry wasn't stepping up, he was being pushed out of comfort by Meghan. What made the joke land wasn't cruelty, it was clarity. For years, people had quietly wondered what Harry would actually do outside the palace. Could a prince who never held a traditional job suddenly make it in the real world? Noah condensed all those doubts into one devastating punchline, and the crowd's reaction showed just how much it resonated. Then he took it further. Noah painted scenes of Harry fumbling through everyday work, from voiceover auditions to awkward office meetings where no one knew whether to call him Your Majesty or Mr. Windsor. It was comedy, but it also exposed the gap between royal privilege and real-world responsibility. That's why this moment left people speechless. It wasn't fantasy, it was a mirror. And once that image of the jobless prince stuck, it became the lens through which audiences saw every move Harry made after leaving the palace. But Noah wasn't finished. The next line would take the fairy tale collapse even further, by reducing the royal exit to something straight out of reality TV. The next punchline came fast. Trevor Noah imagined Harry joining the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. It sounded outrageous, but that's why it landed. In seconds, Noah shifted the story from royal dignity to reality show spectacle. The timing couldn't have been sharper. Meghan and Harry had just signed multi-million-dollar media deals, Netflix, Spotify, book contracts, all meant to rebrand them as global storytellers. But instead of prestige, Noah boiled it down to what audiences were really seeing. Two celebrities trading palace life for Hollywood contracts. The laugh was bigger than the joke itself because it captured an uncomfortable truth.
Harry and Meghan are leaving the palace to become financially independent. And you see, this is what happens when you bring the first black woman into the royal family. Yeah. She looked at Harry and she's like, "Nigga, you need to get a job. You need a job. You a grown-ass man. You can't still be living in your mama's house, Harry."
For a couple who claim to want privacy, their every step seemed to invite more exposure. By tying them to reality TV, Noah highlighted the contradiction between what they said and what they sold. And here's the power of that moment. It didn't stop at one stage. The Housewives gag became shorthand online, repeated in memes and late-night sketches, framing the Sussexes as entertainment figures rather than serious voices. Once that comparison stuck, their image shifted. They weren't the victims of royal tradition anymore. They were seen as players in the Hollywood system. And just when it seemed like the roast couldn't cut deeper, Noah went after Meghan's strongest defense, the carefully curated PR shield that once made her untouchable. Up to that point, Meghan had relied on one defense above all, her polished PR image. Whenever criticism surfaced, it could be brushed aside as bias, jealousy, or simply resistance to change. But Trevor Noah did what most comedians avoided. He went straight for the shield and tore it down. He pointed out the way Meghan leaned into her identity when it suited her, and stepped back from it when it didn't. Instead of sounding like an attack, Noah wrapped it as comedy, making the audience laugh while quietly exposing the contradictions. The effect was devastating. A carefully built humanitarian brand suddenly looked more like a performance than authenticity. This was the moment where viewers stopped laughing at Harry and started questioning Meghan. Because once her credibility cracked, the entire Sussex narrative began to unravel. The line between victimhood and opportunism blurred, and Noah's routine pushed people to see her not as misunderstood, but as calculated. The real sting came after the show. Within days, other comedians echoed the same theme. Late-night hosts, podcasters, and sketch shows began recycling the contradictions. Privacy versus exposure, independence versus media deals, turning them into running jokes. Meghan's strongest defense had flipped into her biggest weakness. And just like that, the roast wasn't just entertainment anymore. It became cultural commentary, leaving audiences stunned at how quickly the PR wall collapsed. But the fallout didn't stop there. What began as one sharp set in America quickly spiraled into something far more ruthless across the Atlantic. Once Trevor Noah cracked Meghan's PR shield, the rest of the American comedy world didn't hold back.
Queen summoned everyone to a private meeting at her royal country house, and everyone attended except Meghan Markle, who conference called in. And I'll be honest, I won't blame Meghan for not going. Because nothing good happens when white people invite you to the countryside. We all know. We've all seen it. We've all seen Get Out. We know how this shit ends.
What could have been a one-off monologue turned into a wave of punchlines across late-night shows, podcasts, and sketch comedy. Conan O'Brien leaned into the story of Meghan and Harry's wax figures being pulled from Madame Tussauds, spinning it into a surreal gag about them ending up anywhere but a palace. Saturday Night Live turned the couple into recurring sketches. Harry as a bumbling ex-royal, Meghan as the actress trying to climb back into Hollywood, cementing the idea that their new chapter looked more like entertainment than independence. Even Joe Rogan, who rarely scripts his jokes, jumped in. On his podcast, he roasted Harry directly, weaving in their past clashes and questioning why the prince had chosen to target him in interviews. It wasn't polished comedy, it was raw, off the cuff, and it spread fast online. What made this stage of the roast different was momentum. Noah's routine lit the fuse, but these follow-ups kept the flames alive. Each joke reinforced the last, turning Meghan and Harry into permanent material rather than temporary headlines. In America, once comedy claims you, it rarely lets go. And if the US response was sharp, the next phase in the UK was ruthless. Across the Atlantic, British satire took the takedown and pushed it even further, turning the Sussexes into a national punchline. If American comics mocked Meghan and Harry as Hollywood players,
damn, Harry and Meghan are losing their titles? That's the most embarrassing royal loss since William's hairline. But yes, the Queen has announced that Harry and Meghan can no longer describe themselves as royal. And I won't lie, if I was Harry and Meghan, I'll be like, fine, then we'll be known as royale.
British satire cut far deeper. In the UK, the couple weren't just targets of late-night laughs. They became an ongoing national punchline. Spitting Image, Britain's infamous puppet satire, led the charge. Meghan was portrayed as a scheming starlet with an ever-present smirk, while Harry was reduced to a clueless man-child needing help for the simplest tasks. The message was clear. Their independent life wasn't noble, it was laughable. And unlike one-time jokes, these puppet sketches lived online, racking up millions of views and embedding those caricatures into pop culture. Then came Jimmy Carr, whose razor-edged style delivered one of the most infamous lines of the saga. "Meghan Markle is a lifelong feminist," he said, which she demonstrated by marrying a prince and giving up her job. The crowd roared, then froze, realizing just how cutting it was. The backlash was immediate. TV debates, radio call-ins, think pieces. But the controversy didn't bury the joke. It amplified it, making Carr's line one of the defining roasts in Meghan's timeline. What set the British response apart was its persistence. While US comics eventually moved on to new targets, British acts circled back every time Meghan or Harry resurfaced. Every interview, every documentary, every podcast became fresh material. In Britain, roasting the Sussexes became less of a joke and more of a tradition. And just when it seemed the storm couldn't get worse, another force made sure the roasting never ended. The internet, where satire doesn't fade, it multiplies. If comedians fired the shots, the internet turned it into a never-ending crossfire.
This morning, new headlines that Harry and Meghan could be moving to Africa. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex are reportedly considering heading on a sabbatical for 6 months.
They're taking a sabbatical? How are you gonna take a break from being royalty? What are you doing? This is like the weirdest thing. Oh, just have to take a break. Too many people surfing, guys. That's too much.
What began as Trevor Noah's late-night routine quickly evolved into a global meme cycle that Meghan and Harry couldn't escape. The spark was small, a clip from Meghan's Netflix series, where she corrected Mindy Kaling on her name. On its own, it was nothing. But slowed down, captioned, and looped on TikTok, it became a viral template. Soon, Meghan's image was pasted into parody scenarios, exaggerated until she became more character than person. Then came the parody skits, lookalike staged lifestyle segments in lavish kitchens, sipping champagne while giving budget advice, mocking the gap between Meghan's words and her reality. Music creators remixed her interviews into auto-tune tracks, with titles like Royal Reality Check, spreading across YouTube and Instagram Reels. The key difference online was scale. Professional comedians moved on eventually, But anonymous creators never stop. Every new podcast clip, paparazzi photo, or staged appearance was chopped, remixed, and repackaged within hours. The contradictions Noah highlighted became meme fuel, repeated so often that they redefined Meghan and Harry's public image. And that's the brutal truth. Late-night roasts fade after a week, but memes live forever. In the internet's hands, Meghan and Harry weren't just mocked for one routine, they were permanently rebranded as a running joke, recycled in thousands of formats that no PR strategy could contain. But the most shocking part of all wasn't the jokes themselves. It was the realization of what those jokes revealed. By the time the laughter died down, Meghan and Harry weren't just the butt of a few jokes. They had been recast by comedy itself. Trevor Noah's roast didn't just sting in the moment, it set off a chain reaction across America, Britain, and the internet that turned satire into their new reality. The most damaging part wasn't the humor, it was what the humor revealed. Noah's jobless prince gag, the housewives comparison, the cracks in Meghan's PR shield, each one exposed contradictions the couple couldn't spin away. For a brand built on privacy, independence, and authenticity, the comedy highlighted dependency, exposure, and contradiction. Once those points were framed in laughter, they stuck harder than any headline. And here's where the latest update matters most. The roasting hasn't slowed. Clips are still going viral, memes are still multiplying, and every new Sussex project risks becoming the next punchline. The internet has decided it's funnier to laugh at Meghan and Harry than to take them seriously, and that decision may be permanent. That's why viewers were left speechless. Because Trevor Noah didn't just deliver a routine, he shifted the narrative. The Sussexes lost control of their own story, and in its place, comedy wrote a version the world can't stop sharing. So the question isn't whether Meghan and Harry can silence the laughter, it's whether they can ever reclaim their image when the world has already turned them into characters. Because once comedy brands you, the punchline lasts longer than the truth.